welcome to Ready to Love, and this is going to be a recap review of the exit interview that Andre did with Little Black Book. I sure did watch it. I'm going to be catching up on all these interviews. So I know I'm behind. Thank y'all for writing me, and I'm going to catch up on my comments, my answers. I'm going to do it all this weekend because of this week. Like I told y'all, I got this new gig, and it's kicking my butt. And I just don't have as much time as I used to have during the week. But I'm going to start catching up. And this week, I'm going to watch the Little Black Book interview with, well, I already watched the one with Andre. I saw he did one with Mercedes. I definitely want to check that one out. I think he did one with Lyndon too. But I saw Lyndon before. I have to figure out if it's anything different than what I saw before. Because I kind of already did one on Lyndon. I think I did, but I don't know. We'll have to see. You know, Little Black Book goes back into the childhood, so sometimes I do get a little bit something different from him than, say, maybe Crystal XO or someone. So I might go back and watch that. We'll see. But the point of the matter is, give me some grace, y'all. Give me some mercy. Don't leave me. Stick with me. And I will be getting out some more videos. But I definitely want to go ahead and talk about this Andre interview. Hold on, let me give me some coffee. So, first of all, thank you, Andre, for saying your favorite food to cook is a curry goat. Oh, I love me some curry goat. Oh, I love some curry goat and some peas and rice. Is that what y'all call it? You Jamaicans call it curry goat and peas and rice? Oh, I love that. One of my favorite meals. But Andre, he was watching his words. I'm going to say this. Andre was watching his words. He made sure he didn't want to say too much that might ruin his reputation. Like he said, he'd been on the cover of Forbes. He said, I'm a Forbes man. I can't be out here ruining my reputation and getting canceled out in these streets and it ruining my business. I know that's right, Andre. Look out for your money. But I'm going to tell you, the whole time watching this interview, you know the one thing that was sticking out in my head. If you saw my thumbnail for this video, you know what it is. And I'm telling you, my bells and whistles started going off with Andre and saying, ooh, he better watch out. He's on the road to being the old man in the club. Andre is on the road to being the old man in the club. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. First of all, I'm old enough to see how the young people became to be the old man in the club because I'm a lot older. So I saw people move from their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. And I'm telling you, Andre got all the markers of being the old man in the club. First of all, one of the markers of old man being in the club is a man that has a lot of options. Too many options. So many options that he can't decide. That's Andre. Andre's a good looking. This hairstyle he had was probably the best one I've seen on him. He needs to keep this one. Forget this up here, Andre. Forget the feathers. Forget all that. Keep the one you got going right now. That's your best look. But I think the reason why he gets those little kooky hairstyles is because I think Andre's trying to appear younger. I think he thinks, let me keep trying to look younger, because the hairstyle he had on this Little Black Book, it actually was a more mature hairstyle, something more fitting of his age. But the other one that he likes to wear with the little ponytail on top is kind of like a jokester, like a little kid, you know. And I think he does that so he can appear more younger and youthful because he likes the young girls. It's pretty clear that Andre likes the young women. And when I say young, I'm not talking about women who are just 5 years younger, 6 years younger. And this is why I say he's in danger of being the old man in the club. Andre doesn't say, there's a lot of men who say, I like younger women. No problem. They go, I typically like my woman younger, like say around, let's say 6, 7, 8, 6 to 10 years younger than me. A lot of men are like that. No big deal. Andre's in trouble because he doesn't just say 6 to 10 years younger than him. What he does is he likes them around 22, 23. So even as he gets older, his preference of the woman's age stays at 22, 23. That is one of the first markers of an old man in the club. Because when you just like younger women, you can meet women younger than you wherever you go as you get older. But when you like women who are only 22, 23, the only place you meet them is in the club. That's why he'll be an old man in the club, because the women he likes, 22, 23, he's got to go to the club to find them. Because once women start getting other ages, they want to get out the club. They want to get married. They want to have kids, and they're not going to be in the club. Andre is in real danger of being the old man in the club. Let me tell you the other reason why I'm saying he's in danger of being the old man in the club, because of what he does for a living. He's a serial entrepreneur. So if y'all don't know what a serial entrepreneur is, the difference between an entrepreneur and a serial entrepreneur is that an entrepreneur may just be a business owner. He or she may own a business. You're an entrepreneur. I started my business. I run this business. I've been running this business for 5 years. I've been running this business for 6 years. I started it up. They might have even had another business 10 years ago, whatever. Andre's a serial entrepreneur, which means what they do is they really don't stick with any business too long. Maybe 2 years, maybe a year. It just depends. It depends on how long it takes them to get that business up and running in time for them to sell it to someone else, or they've gotten enough out of the business that they're ready to move on to a new one. And what Andre is saying is that typically he's running his businesses anywhere from 0 to 4 years. And guess what? That coincides with his relationships with women. So he's a serial entrepreneur and he's a serial relationship person. He's not one of these men trying to hop around from woman to woman. He's not hoeing out in these streets. He's not doing any of that. I get that. I don't believe he is. He's got this sort of compass that he uses for his religion. Plus, I think he's a little bit more disciplined, that he isn't into that hopping every single week, every single night thing. But he gets bored with women just as he gets bored with businesses. So the same trajectory he has with his businesses, every 0 to 4 years, he wants to start a new business, get rid of one, get a new one. It's what goes on with his relationships. So around 3 to 4 years, 2 to 3 to 4 years. In fact, he said it was really 2 years. Things start to go awry, which means he's not willing to stick with the business or the person to make it through those bumps. That's the difference between a person who's an entrepreneur and really likes to run the day-to-day of a business versus people who like the newness of a new business, getting it up and going and moving on. That's what he is with women. He likes to meet women, 22-year-old women. He likes to get them up and going. And then once he gets them to a certain level where then maybe they need to go in a new direction, he moves on to a new woman and gets a new project. That's why he likes 22-year-old women, 22-year-old projects, because he can mold them, he can shape them. Not because he's trying to necessarily take advantage of them, but he can mold them, shape them, see them blossom, and then he can move on to a new project. That's also what makes him being in danger of being the old man in the club. If he doesn't become the old man in the club, I'm gonna tell you another dangerous spot for him. He might marry a mail order bride. Because this is another way these old men go. A lot of these old men, they end up being marrying mail order brides. Now, when I say mail order brides, I'm using it loosely. And what I mean is typically it's a foreign woman. It's a woman not from the United States. It is a woman that maybe in her country, it's not uncommon for her to marry a man 20 years over for stability. So he could be 45 and the young lady could easily be 25 years old. She's young in her country. She's still of childbearing years. He wants children. She's not going to really ask for much. And she will be a little bit more submissive because she'll be happy that he brought her over. He can mold her. Because see, what happens when Andre is going to get to be around 40 or 45 and he's still in the club chasing 22-year-old women, it's going to become creepy. It's creepy. A lot of you that are older, y'all remember being in the club and you were 22. I'm talking to the women. You were 22 in the club and there would be the 45-year-old man in the club. And I'm telling you, it was creepy. It was creepy. The only thing, women that had good heads on their shoulders, the only thing those men were good for were buying you drinks. That was it. That was it. That's all they were good for. Because you really like, I'm not going to be with no man old enough to be my doggone daddy. You might know my daddy. No way was I 22 years old going to be dating no 45-year-old man and you might know my daddy. No way. You might have gone to school with my daddy. No way. So the only women who really went after those men or who even gave those men attention, even accepted drinks from those men, were women who were looking for sugar daddies, using them to buy them drinks, take them on trips, benefactors. That's what they were looking for them. But see, Andre, he's not dumb. He's not dumb. So he's going to feel like he's getting used by these young women. Oh, I'm getting used. They just using me for my money. Well, yeah, when you 25-year-old woman and a 45-year-old man wants to holler at you, the men are going to have to pay to play. Pay to play. They think they're going to be hanging out with 22-year-old women for free. No, because if they're not getting no money from no 40-year-old man, then they might as well be with a younger man who ain't doing nothing. No, they're there for the money. And so Andre's going to get frustrated with that. He's not going to want to be used for his money. And so next thing you know, he's going to have to do a mail order bride. Those are just two routes. If Andre doesn't figure out that he needs to stop running his dating life like he's running his serial entrepreneur life, he's going to be either the old man in the club or he's going to be a mail order bride husband. I'm telling you, that's where he's going to end up being. Now, they talked a little bit about his whole dating thing on Ready to Love. And one thing that Andre said about himself was that he has a keen sense of intuition. He can figure people out. And so one thing I'm going to say about Andre, which I didn't agree with him on the show, but I'm going to change my mind here, is that I do think Andre can read people pretty well. I think he can read people pretty well. And he probably picked that up as a business acumen in business, because in business, you do have to be able to read people. You have to know who you can trust, who you can't trust. I know a lot of you often give me compliments on that here, and I appreciate that because I probably have had to hone those skills a little bit more, being myself, having been in the entrepreneurial world. I dibble and dabble. So my world isn't as much as like I would say Andre's. I am a person who started off in a W-2 world. Many of you know I'm an engineer by trade. I went to school for engineering. Then I transitioned from my corporate job into the entrepreneurial world, where I did a lot of real estate business and real estate investing transactions. And then what I do is I bounce back and forth between those two worlds, depending on the economy, depending on the situation. And as all you guys know right now, real estate is trash. It is trash. So what I've had to do is I've had to take less real estate projects, and now I'm taking on more engineering work. And as a result of that, my schedule has changed and I can't do these videos. So I'm a little bit different, but I understand it with Andre, because you do, when you're dealing with people, different people all the time, you do have to develop an acumen to be able to read them, know if you can trust them, read them in negotiation and deals and things like that. So I could see why he might have picked up on a little bit of this intuition, and he carries with him. So I'm gonna give him credit for that. And then I'm gonna give him credit because I do believe that Andre read Cynthia better than I did. Andre had more information about Cynthia, and I think he read her more from the beginning, that she was a lot of talk and no action. I think at one time he even said her answers were too rehearsed. And at the time, I think I might have said something about Andre for saying it, but I'm coming back now and saying, sorry, Andre, you were right, I was wrong. You were right, Andre, and I was wrong. And what Andre knew was all this femininity talk, all this submissiveness talk that Cynthia was talking, in no way could she deliver it. She couldn't deliver it. She wasn't going to deliver it. She didn't have what it took to deliver it, and he sniffed it out. And that's why she was never going to be his number one. I think he was her number one only for up until, I forget what he said. It was very early on that she went from being number one to number two behind Jeffrey. It was very early on. I think they both sort of played the game to keep, each other in the game. But even Cynthia admits that it was always Anthony who was her number one. And I believe that back then. I wasn't the one who thought Cynthia really wanted Andre. I was never that person. I always thought she wanted Anthony. And that instead what she was doing was she was somewhat just keeping the Andre relationship alive. And I believe that's what went on. I think Andre sniffed out Cynthia very early on and knew that she couldn't deliver on being the submissive person. And so she was never going to be the person for him, because he absolutely wants a submissive woman. He wants a young mind, one that he can mold and he can shape. And I'm telling you, not only is Cynthia not a young mind, I'm trying to get her to move from the mind she has. So she's already on a path. She's already programmed. He doesn't want a woman already programmed. He wants a woman that he can program. And Cynthia has been programmed already by James. She's already programmed. And Andre ain't looking to deprogram Cynthia. So she was never going to be a good fit for him. And then I want to say, a lot of you are going to be mad at this, that I'm going to say he read Mercedes correctly. But not in a bad way. He read her in the correct way based on what he knew he wanted. My problem that I had a problem with Andre during the season with Mercedes, because Mercedes is one of my favorites, still is that I felt he was dirty dogging her when, because she didn't call him when he was on COVID, bed rest, sick time, whatever you want to call it, because she didn't call him, he went for her throat and started trying to get her off the show. And what I'm saying is, he didn't just say he was no longer interested in Mercedes. He took Mercedes from his top to his bottom, okay? And was going into the men's lounge trying to convince other men to get rid of Mercedes. I didn't like that. I thought that was some dirty dogging ways. I thought his feelings were hurt. His ego was hurt just because Mercedes didn't call him when he was sick. Plus, I felt like if you're off the show, why would I be calling you off the show? I should be concentrating on other people. So I had a lot of problems with the way that he handled the situation with Mercedes. And come to find out, I saw someone write something in the chat when I was watching the interview, that Mercedes says on her interview that there were a lot of women who didn't call Andre, and he didn't have the same reaction to her. So in here, he was saying, well, I didn't expect those women to call me because I didn't have a connection with them, but I had a connection with Mercedes. Well, I don't think Mercedes had a connection with Andre as much as he thinks she did. That's the first problem. I don't think she did, because I don't think Andre is even Mercedes' type. So I think he thinks there was a connection. I think he thinks there should have been a connection, because like I said, I think he thinks he's the most desirable man on the show. And how could Mercedes not be interested in him? But this is where I'm going to say, where I'm going to give him a couple of points where he read Mercedes right, because I've even seen it with Mercedes. Mercedes is not a 100% emotional woman. She is not. She's already in school to be a pilot. Mercedes has a logic side to her. She has a logic side. And what Andre is used to, he's used to these women who are maybe more emotional, okay, and don't use that logical side of their brain. And Mercedes does. Mercedes does. So one of the things he said about Mercedes was, he actually said more that really upset me. He said, he was going back to the lounge and telling the guys, a woman who doesn't even call you when you're sick on your sick bed, that's something. Basically, he was trying to say something's wrong with her. Basically, he was trying to say she's an uncaring, unfeeling person when she doesn't care about you when you're sick on your bed. Like I said, I still don't really agree with him of how he's really trying to throw Mercedes under the bus. But the part where I say I'll give him half a point, I'm going to give him half a point, is what he sensed in Mercedes is Mercedes isn't this emotional, a gushy woman that's going to be doing that kind of stuff for him. He sensed it right away. And what he knew was Mercedes is not going to be catering to me the way I want a woman to cater to me. She's not going to be gassing me up all the time. She's not going to be doing like Jeffrey baby voices and talking to me like a mommy and making me feel good. And so I'm going to give him a half a point for that, because he did recognize that in her, because Mercedes used that on a lot of these men. A lot of these men were miffed by Mercedes because they were trying to appeal to one part of Mercedes, and what they didn't recognize is Mercedes is a bit more balanced. She definitely has an emotional side to her, but she has this logical side. And a lot of these men, they weren't appealing. It's why Mercedes was able to tell Anthony, hey, listen, I like you as a person. My emotional side says you're a good person, you're a nice person, but my logical side says you and our lives don't fit. That's the logic. That's the logic that says, listen, what my emotions are saying is I may like you, I may like your personality, but my logic says our lives don't fit together. And that's why she's able to do this thing with Mark Anthony, because emotionally she likes Mark Anthony, but logically she says our lives aren't fitting right now. So the best we could be are friends with benefits. She deduced that. She said, hey, emotionally, I like you, you're attractive. We got mad chemistry. Logically, I'm trying to be a pilot. I'm probably going to have to go away to pilot school. You bouncing back between Florida and New York. Logically, it ain't lining up. But you know what? We got this chemistry. And then she does her little calculations. She says, what should we do? We should be friends with benefits. And Mark Anthony's like, I'm with it. I am with it. Let's do it. But she couldn't have done that with Andre. So I'm going to give Andre half a point on recognizing that Mercedes is not all logic. So his intuition on that part was right. But the way he was trying to dog her out, I didn't like that. I didn't like that one bit. And I finally figured out where all this need for attention came from for Andre. I mean, it kind of made sense to me. I mean, it may not be the only reason, but I did see a big indication on how he got it. So he tells us the story that he grew up in Jamaica until the time he was maybe 10 years old. No, to 12 years old. But at 10 years old, he went away to boarding school in Jamaica, where he basically lived there. So he didn't really live with his mother anymore. So he was actually separated from his mother at 10 years old. He was separated from the hugs, the kisses. 10-year-old boys, you still hugging on them, you still kissing on them at 10 years old. Mamas are still hugging and kissing on their little boys at 10 years old. So at 10 years old, he was separated from the love, the nurturing of his mother. And I think his mother wasn't nurturing from the beginning. I think that's it. I don't think he had a nurturing mother from the beginning. I don't think he had a mother that loved on him, kissed on him, hugged on him, told him sweet things, called him my baby boy, did all those wonderful things that mothers do to boys. I don't think that his mother did those things to him. And then he went away at 10 years old to boarding school. And then come to find out, his father was in the U.S. I think his father's British. His father sent for him, and he came over at 12 years old, and he lived with his dad. So here's Andre growing up a lot of years and not getting the love and attention from the mom, the hugs, the kisses, the sweet words, all those things that moms do to little boys before the boys eventually look to get those things from women. So I can see how Andre probably got involved with women pretty early on. He probably started, dating women, probably having, relationships with women pretty early on, because he didn't really get a lot of that from his mother. Because I'm telling you, when you have rich relationships with your parents, the opposite sex, it does allow you to enter into your adult opposite sex relationships differently. You're not as thirsty for them. If you're a girl and you have a father who's loving on you, who tells you nice things, gives you compliments, you're not so thirsty for the compliments of young boys because you still have a father who's doing that for you. Same thing with boys and sometimes women. If you have a mother who is still giving you that nurturing part of you, you're not necessarily looking for that nurturing from girls. You're not looking for them to nurture you. I think Andre looks for women who will somewhat mommy them and nurture them. In a lot of ways, he tries to daddy the women. It's almost like he's looking for a mommy-daddy relationship. He wants to daddy the women, and then he wants the women to sort of mommy him. It's kind of weird, to be honest with you. Like I said, that's why I'm saying he's in danger of being the old man in the club. He really is in danger. He better get it together. He better figure out how to separate his, the way he likes to gravitate towards serial entrepreneurship. He better figure out how to detach that string that has him doing that same thing in his dating life, because he's going to wake up in 5 years and he's going to be the old man in the club, or he's going to be with a young woman using him for his money, and he's going to feel used. He's going to feel used. Andre, if you're listening, go talk to some men. Go talk to some men who are about 50 years old with no kids, still chasing young women. We know one of them. He was real famous, passed away, unfortunately, too soon, 50-year-old, and look how he passed away. You better go talk to him. You better go talk to these 50-year-old men who don't settle down, okay, who love young women. And I'm talking about women, not always women who are 10 years younger. That's okay. 15 years younger. That's okay. I'm talking about these men get stuck dating women between 20 and 30. Even though they're getting older, they only like the women between 20 and 30. 20 to 25, to be honest with you. 20 to 25, 20 to 30. Go talk to some of them, ask them how they got there, and you better do everything you can, Andre, to avoid it. Because I'm telling you, it's not a good look. And it's such a bad look that even if you decide to change and you decide, you know what, I'm going to start dating a little bit older women, those older women don't want you. They don't want you because you look creepy to them too. And you're a big walking red flag. Okay. And Andre says he likes intellectual conversations, but honestly, he doesn't really speak about too much intellectually. I didn't hear nothing. I think of all the interviewers who do these videos, I would say Kojo is probably the one that gets more on the deeper intellectual level. So if you're going to go deep, if you're going to go in deep and intellectual, you would do it with Kojo. So I figured, okay, let's see this deep side of Andre. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't hear too much deep conversation. I really didn't hear too much deep conversation going on with Andre. I kind of felt like these women he was dating. You date them for 4 years, and then all of a sudden you're left with nothing. Because I'm gonna tell you, this interview, I think it's supposed to be a part 2 because they didn't get to finish, but I'm good on it. I'm good on Andre. I don't think there's too much more I need to hear from Andre. Andre's conversation wasn't enough for me to want to go back to part 2. Unless he gives me some real depth, something deeper, then I'm bored with the conversation after I had enough. I did an hour and a half. I'm good, Andre. So if he ever tries to move up to older women, he's going to run into a problem because what he thinks is deep conversation is deep for 22-year-olds. But it's not going to be deep for no woman who's 34, 35, 36, 37. He's not going to even be able to move up in age. So he's going to really have a problem. I'm telling you, Andre, if you are listening to me, you better start thinking about this game plan you got. And you better figure out a way to get out of this rut you're in. This rut where you like to date 22, 23-year-old women. Otherwise, you're going to be the old man in the club. But to get back to this part where I was giving him these points for being, having intuition, okay? I gave him some points. I gave him a full point for Cynthia, full point. He called it. I gave him a half a point. I don't know if I should give him, but I gave him a little half a point for Mercedes because he did pick up on that about her. So now I say, well, if you were so good at seeing it in Cynthia, and you were good at seeing in the Mercedes, that little part of Mercedes, and then why all of a sudden can you say you were bamboozled by Jeffrey? You weren't bamboozled. You weren't bamboozled. You knew exactly what was going on, and you used Jeffrey to stay on the show. And the other reason why I know he played with Jeffrey is because, come to find out, Andre really wasn't as high in demand on the show as he wants to think, and even maybe we all thought in the beginning. Because now that I start looking at Andre's connections, who really wanted Andre? I'm telling you, I don't believe Cynthia wanted Andre for real. And I know for sure he didn't want Cynthia. So honestly, Cynthia's out. She only can be used to stay on the show. He's not really trying to be with her. The second part, and she has another connection. With Anthony. And I believe Anthony really was her number one connection. So think about this, people. Cynthia really isn't a real viable option for him. One, because he doesn't really like her that way. And she has another really viable option with Anthony. Mercedes isn't an option. That's why he was really, really mad at Mercedes. And come to find out, he made it pretty clear that Mark Anthony put his stake on Mercedes pretty early on. He says, Mark Anthony said it right up front to all the women, that one's mine. That's what he said. He said, that one's mine right there. And he meant Mercedes. So he already knew Mark Anthony was like a back off. Plus Mercedes, I don't think really liked Andre. So now we say, who was really a viable option for him? And so now we're left with this Jeffrey character. And that's what I'm going to call her, a character, because Jeffrey is a character. I'm not even going to call her a person because she plays a role. She's an actress. She plays a role. So this is the character she's playing. The character she played on the show was Jeffrey. I don't know who the real Jeffrey is, but she played a character on the show. So if Andre is so good at reading people, then he had to have read Jeffrey, because I read Jeffrey. Lots of you read Jeffrey. So how could he read Cynthia? How could he read Mercedes, but he didn't read Jeffrey? He read Jeffrey, and he knew about them baby daddies missing. He knew all of it, but he went along and pretended like he didn't know about it because honestly, he didn't have anywhere else to go. He didn't have any other real options. So he wants us to believe he had a lot of options. Truthfully, he didn't have a lot of options. Jeffrey was his only option to really, really make it towards the end. He didn't have another option. He didn't. And Jeffrey thought she was a real option. She wasn't, because like I said, Jeffrey thinks more of herself than she is. So she really did believe that Andre really liked her. But Andre knew what was going on with Jeffrey. Now, he may not have known the extent. I don't think he knew the extent. I don't think he knew about how fake that voice was. I don't think he knew how much she wasn't submissive. I don't think he knew any of that. But he definitely knew there was a problem surrounding those baby daddies. That was not new information to him. What he said was he didn't really want to talk to her about it during the showtime because he felt it wasn't a conversation he wanted to have on camera. And what he said was they really didn't have a lot of dates off camera, and he didn't feel like he wanted to grill her on camera, but he knew the circumstances. So what he's saying he did was he waited until after the show was over. They met up, they had dinner, because Jeffrey lives in a whole another city 2 hours away. Maybe that's where that country voice comes from, because she ain't from Miami. She really from probably some Hobart town, country town in Florida, who talks country like that. And so once they did meet up for dinner, then he started asking her the real interview questions. Let's talk about these baby daddies. And what he was saying was the answers weren't sufficient. The answers weren't sufficient. And then that's when he did what he does to these businesses, that when he's looking to go on to acquire a new business or start a new business, he goes in, he does his due diligence. And if the numbers don't add up, the stories don't add up, the profit margins don't add up, the potential of the business doesn't add up, he drops them. And that's what he did to Jeffrey. He met with her for a business meeting. He looked at her business endeavor. Let me look at your life. Let me see what you've done. Let me look at the roots and the causes and what went on. And he realized that this isn't adding up, and he dumped her. There you go. So he processed her just like a business deal, and he dumped her. And now Jeffrey feels used because she feels as if all he did was look for a reason. So what if he looked for a reason? That's what you do. You do look for reasons to dump people. You look for reasons of why you don't fit with them. And that's what Andre did. He looked for a reason, and he found plenty of them. He found plenty of them. Do y'all hear that noise behind me? My husband out here blowing these leaves with the blower by the window. He know I'm in here taping. But anyway, I'm going to try to block it out. If not, if you hear it, it's my husband out there doing yard work. He's probably waiting for me to come out there. I said, I got videos to make. But I'm almost done. I am almost done. But I would say of all the things I got out of the interview, that's the thing I think I got the most out of Andre. And that was that he's on the road to being the old man in the club, or marrying a foreign woman who's like a mail order bride. And I don't want to say she's completely mail order, but it's like a woman who doesn't live in the U.S. He brings her over and marries her, and they have kids, and they get married and all this other kind of stuff. And she'll be like 20 years younger than him. That's what I'm saying. And who knows? Maybe that's what he wants for his life. Maybe that's what he wants for his life. But let me tell you, Andre's a time waster. Any woman, I'm telling you, Andre's a time waster. You better really evaluate whether or not you want to be with an Andre, because he's a time waster. He wastes your time. He's the type of person where if you're a young woman, he may steal all your youth. He may steal all your youth from 20 to, he says it's 2 years, but they may get longer. He may steal all your time from 20 to darn near 30. And then next thing you know, by the time he gets rid of you, you ain't going to be, a lot of men not going to want to date you no more. You're going to give all your youth, all your good years away to some old man, Andre. He going to waste them. He's not going to marry you. He may not even give you no baby. That's why he don't mind that women already have kids, because he ain't guaranteeing you one. Andre's like, I'm not going to guarantee you no baby, because I don't necessarily want to be caught with no child support from none of these young women. So I'm good with her already having a kid, because he said 2 women have already given him ultimatums, which means he lays it on thick with women. He makes women think he wants to marry them. And there was 2 women that already had to give him ultimatums in dating, and both of those women got cut. Both of those women got cut. When they gave him ultimatums, he said, we ain't got to wait till your ultimatum is up in 5 months. Let's go ahead and decide now. We done. We done. He sold that business off. He put you up for sale right away. I'm telling you, women, be careful with the Andres of the world, because he is a time waster. He's a time waster. And if he's not careful, he's going to be the old man in the club, or he's going to be marrying a mail order bride. Anyway, that's it, y'all. Let me get out here in this outdoors and help my husband, because he's right here at my window looking at me. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye.